Welcome back to another episode of Living Hope, a weekly journey designed to provide hope, inspiration, and education for those living with pancreatic cancer. Sharing the real-life stories of those really affected by this really deadly disease and how they deal with it on a daily basis. And today we're privileged. We have a special host with us. Hopefully someone who'll feel comfortable enough to do this week in and week out with us and help us guide through this journey. The woman whose journey took her here and started this storytelling. Welcome to Roberta Luna. Hey, Roberta.
Hi, Paul. Thanks so much for agreeing to share the mic with me today.
Why not? Why not? Absolutely. You know, the first few shows, it was me talking about this because I know everybody wanted to feel comfortable with how do we get this thing going, but I think it helps to have somebody who's really been there because I don't really understand this. I don't know anybody that's gone through pancreatic cancer. Every time I listen to the story, to me, it's just hard to believe. And so I'm always questioning and wondering and asking questions, maybe the audiences, but I think it helps to have some perspective. And you've been give us your quick story here again for those that haven't tuned in. You've been living with this for 19 years.
Yes, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm still here.
Fortunately.
Thank you, Julia. I appreciate that. I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer on April 1st, 2002, after losing my father, grandmother, and uncle to the disease. And then in 2008, I also lost my mom. So I am actually the lone survivor of a family that's been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. I wanted to do something more, and I appreciate, Paul, thank you very much, OC Talk Radio, for giving us this opportunity. And hopefully you guys will continue to tune in each week because we want to really share the other stories that are out there. Some maybe didn't end happily, but they still have something positive to say and to share. And I really hope you guys tune in every week. If you don't, you can also catch us on a podcast, which
That's
is
right.
awesome.
That's right. You can binge backwards. You can listen to all of them. So who'd you bring with you today?
Today I brought Julia, and I'm going to let her say her own last name because I have a tendency to screw up last names no matter how simple and how often I know them and can practice. So Julia, thank you for joining us today. Would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I am Julia Tominaga.
Thank you. I knew I had it right, but, I know it was going to come out wrong, so I'd rather do it right the first time. Just real quick, I'm really out of my comfort zone here, so...
You're doing fine so far.
So far, so good. I guess if I can jump out of an airplane and fight pancreatic cancer, I guess I can do this, but we'll see. And your feedback is always welcome, so anybody wants to give us feedback, please feel free to do that. Julie, I know you have a great story, and I've actually really researched your brother, but I want to hear it from you, so if you would... just tell us a little bit about what brought you here today. What journey did you go with?
Sure. My older brother, back in December 19th of 2008, I got a phone call from my dad, and my dad said that I'm taking your brother to the ER. He has some stomach pain. So I said, okay, let me know how it goes. And at about 3 p.m. that day, I was asked to come to the hospital, and the ER doctor said we found a mass on his pancreas. So my first thought was, okay, can we operate, remove this mass? And the look on the ER doctor's face kind of said it all. He said, well, I want your family to meet with the oncologist first. So, of course, that night I go home and I Google pancreatic cancer, and it was very scary. I didn't have a lot of hope. Like everybody, nobody knows where your pancreas does. Nobody knows where it's located. But I knew my brother had a mass on his pancreas. So the next day, the oncologist met with us and said he's got stage 4 pancreatic cancer that has metastasized to his liver. So I still said, what are we going to do about this? And the oncologist, who was... now I know he was awesome. He offered us options. He said we could do nothing. We could keep your brother comfortable, or we could do chemotherapy, or I can look into clinical trials. He said, I can't guarantee that he would qualify for any clinical trials, but I will look. So that night we talked to my brother, and I think he was in shock too. You know, when you get this news, it's a lot to process. He decided on chemotherapy. Back then, it was just, is it gemcitabine?
Yes.
Yes. There was no Abraxane with the gemcitabine, so it was just gemcitabine. My brother had long hair, and all he was worried about, well, two things. He wanted to, the chemotherapy was to slow the growth of the tumor so that there wouldn't be so much pain. He was more worried about losing his hair.
Yeah, I can kind of go with that. That was one of my worries too. And when you're really thinking, you're thinking it's just hair.
Right.
But when you see it in the drain, it's a bit different.
Right.
You mentioned that they took your brother to ER. What symptoms did he have, or what was the reason they actually took him into the ER?
The way my father explained it was stomach pain. But when I saw him, his stomach was very distended. And there's a word for it. Is it?
It's acidity.
He's something like that. And back pain. That was it. And he had sustained a back injury while at work. He worked for the House of Blues. So the back pain wasn't something out of the ordinary. The stomach pain and the bloating, I guess, is what got him to the ER.
What test did they do to determine that it was pancreatic cancer, and how long did it take them to get that diagnosis?
What they told me that same day was they found a mass on his pancreas. And I guess that was through maybe a CT scan.
So it must have been a fairly
MRI.
large mass. Do you know the size of it?
I
catch
don't
it?
remember.
Okay.
My brother was not one. He wanted to know the facts. And he asked the doctor, am I going to die? And if so, how long do I have to live? And the doctor gave him 3 to 6 months. He was in a lot of pain. He lived 2.5 weeks after diagnosis. So, but watching him go through that, it was, and I remember the doctor saying, I wish I could tell you you have any other cancer. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he didn't live 3 to 6 months with this pain. 2.5 weeks.
Did he do any chemo during that time, or did he
Yes.
say? Did he? Okay.
Yeah,
Did he have any side effects or anything with the chemo?
No.
Did he keep his hair? His long.
Yes.
I heard long, gorgeous hair. Actually, I did a little research on your brother, and a lot of things that were mentioned was Curtis with the long hair.
Yes.
So he was able to keep his long hair during this time.
Yep, absolutely. And during his 2.5 weeks, I mean, the last few days were rough, but he was in the hospital. He would walk to the cafeteria with my son Brennan. He would he'd shower on his own. We'd walk outside to the patio. So, like I said, we had great days, but the last few days were rough.
How did this change your family as far as, get-togethers? Were you always close? Did this bring you closer? Did you tend to drift more apart?
My parents were both alive when this happened. My mom was devastated. And she kept saying, there's no reason to smile. There's no reason to laugh anymore. Losing a child is the worst. And my brother was 48, and even though, still her child.
Yeah.
Bringing the family closer, I would say yes, it did. For me personally, after losing my brother, I just wanted to know more about the disease. I found the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, and I immediately wanted to volunteer and try to make a difference, whether it's raising money, helping them with their event, doing something.
Did you find that satisfying for yourself?
Yeah, so I called the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, and the person that I spoke to, I said, I want to volunteer. I just lost my brother. I want to volunteer. She actually gave me good advice. She said, before you volunteer, why don't you attend our Purple Stride event in LA? It's coming up in a month or 2.
Can you explain just a little bit what Purple Stride is for those people who don't know?
Yeah, so Purple Stride, we have Purple Stride, they're awareness walks across the country where people who have a connection to pancreatic cancer come, walk, raise money for research, programs that the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network has. And it's it's an amazing day. You attend the event, you walk, you raise money. The Purple Stride area, is it called the Village?
Yes.
Yes, has different tents where you can learn about the disease, get more involved, and of course, food and refreshments and things
It's always
like that.
important, right?
Yeah, but when I attended that event, they had the survivors come up on stage. And at that moment, I just started crying because in my mind, people don't survive this disease. It took my brother's life in 2.5 weeks. People don't survive. It was Purple Stride South Bay in a shopping center. And I remember walking 2 laps, crying the whole way. And at that moment, I knew I really wanted to get involved.
Good, and I'm glad you did because you've helped us out in Orange County with our Purple Stride. And as a survivor, it's a very overwhelming feeling to be on that stage and to look out and see all those people who are supporting you, even though they may have lost somebody. They're there to support you, and it's just an amazing feeling. So, thank you for doing that and for volunteering. Then from that, I know you became more than just a volunteer.
Yes. So I volunteered, let's see. My brother passed away in 2009. I actually participated in the Purple Stride South Bay in 2010. I was a volunteer chair. And then I was working for a small nonprofit at the time. And I kept my eye on the PanCan website. And I saw a position that was open. And it was in accounting. I do not have an accounting background, but I know the software that they use. So I started working for PanCan on July 5th, 2011.
Oh, you have an anniversary coming up in a couple
big
of months, don't you? Yeah, there you go. 10 year?
10
10
years.
Yeah, I
Yep.
did that math really quick. I'm proud
Yeah.
of myself. It's not easy. Well, I know you mentioned your son, Brennan.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to congratulate him real quick on graduating high school. I cannot believe that little boy is doing that. I remember
Yeah.
him very young. There's a photo that always catches my attention that you use quite a lot, and it's with Brennan and Curtis on a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any particular story or anything behind that photo, or is it just a favorite of yours?
There's no real story, but I think that image really captures their closeness, their relationship. My brother, I don't know if marriage was in his cards, and even children, but he loved his nephews more than life itself. And Brennan losing his uncle, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's a tough situation.
Brennan losing his uncle at 5 years old. I mean, the 5 years that he had with his uncle and the closest is probably more than some people will have in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for that.
It's amazing, and just like I said, at such a young age, and he's actually been a volunteer
Yeah.
himself with both LA and Orange County Purple Strides, and within the office in LA. So we're very proud of this young man as well. I know you said that you don't think marriage or maybe children were in his cards, but I have to say, like I said, I did a little bit of research, and I was amazed at some of the comments people made on his page. And one of them was, he is an example for my daughter as to what a man should be. And I thought that was just really amazing for somebody, to come out and say that. And some of the other things I read about him, he was just a very awesome person. And I just want to know, do you or your family ever ask why us, why him?
All the time. All the time. I do, but I try not to focus on that. I try to focus on the positive and the fact that his diagnosis and his death has brought me so much closer to so many people like yourself and to an amazing organization that's doing amazing things, and the night before my brother passed away, he said, he only knew about pancreatic cancer for 2.5 weeks, and he said, I hope in Brennan's lifetime they find a cure.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
So he's 18. We got to get on this.
And that's what we're working towards. And the programs like this hopefully will help us bring more awareness
Right.
to that. If you had any advice to give to anybody who is just now going through this, is there anything special you would say to them?
I work for the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, so this is not, our patient services is an amazing group of people, an amazing department, and I would say call them. And in fact, a couple weeks ago, we had a friend who said his father was diagnosed. And, I talked to him, but I said, call them. They'll answer all your questions. They have resources beyond belief, and to call them, For me, when I actually got to the PanCan website, but only having 2.5 weeks, I didn't really get to utilize their service, but it's a great service. And for, from A to Z, they can help you. And if they can't, they will guide you in the right direction.
And I think it's one thing, I always refer to them as my one-stop shop when I talk to anybody, because they do patient services, advocacy, research. I really can't think of anyone who does it any better. So I want to thank you very much for coming and sharing your story. And thank you all for listening and giving me this opportunity to come out of my comfort zone. And hopefully you enjoyed the show, and you will tune in again next week with us, and also go to our podcast and listen to what you may have missed or re-listen to it again. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
And there you have it, another reason to tune in each and every week to Living Hope. A weekly journey designed to provide hope, inspiration, and education for those living with pancreatic cancer, sharing the real-life stories of those affected by this disease and how they're dealing with it on a daily basis. And if you'd like to share your stories, please come forward. We're more than welcome to share it with the world. What can we learn from each other? That's what this is all about. And if you or anyone out there needs information right now, if you've started your own journey or are on your own journey with dealing with pancreatic cancer, or someone you love or know is, start by calling patient services at 877, the number 2, PanCan. That's 877 and the number 2, PANCAN, and reach out to the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. From your friends here at Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from the UCI Beale Applied Innovation Center. I'm Paul Roberts. Be well. Tune in again.